And welcome back to the Flickering Torch Podcast. This is Mr. Dead Scott.
And Smite.
And we're back, and, we'll do our normal intro like I'm reading, and then I realized I've written this up, and I wanted to thank our one fan, and then I realized I think I have multiple people listening for once, which is terrifying, because I looked at our actual view counter, and, one of them has 15, which scared the hell out of me, and then the other ones have, 3, 8... 7. We finally made it, buddy.
Yep.
We made it big times. Woo! Double digits.
People actually liked listening to us.
I know. It's terrifying, isn't it?
7, 8 people besides my alternative accounts are insane, actually. So
wait, your 7 alternate accounts or no, sorry, 6 alternate accounts.
Yeah,
since we have
6,
8. Okay,
yeah.
got it. Okay, so let's crack into it because as per our bylaws, we've been drinking and we kind of get forgetful and distracted. So this time we're going to talk about something that we feel is long time forgotten and overlooked, which is Smite's IQ level.
Yeah.
Which I kid, of course. No, we want to talk about tutorials and mainly tutorials in gaming. And I know that it's kind of an annoying thing that most of us rush through, and quite honestly, I barely pay attention to them sometimes too. But a good tutorial is something that really stands out, and sometimes you don't even know it's a tutorial. And then really bad ones are so amazing that you either completely forget them from your brain performing it as PTSD, or you just dear sweet God, make this end. I'm done.
Yeah. The mechanics of a tutorial, I guess best started off is the basics. You're teaching players how to play the game.
Wait, what?
Yeah, exactly. So it's basically setting you up to get the basic controls down, and then allows you to expand as you go throughout the game. Some throw it all at you at once, and others just kind of lead you on and let you figure it out on your own. But so it teaches you how to play the game, introduces the story, or the the background story, which Witcher 3 is a good example of that.
Yeah, we'll go into full-blown detail on that later, but that's a great example for setting up a backstory and a current story at the same time.
Yeah. It gives the players basically training wheels to figure out how to do puzzles, combat, platforming. I think Devil May Cry was a decent one for setting up puzzles and stuff.
Oh yeah. I didn't think of that.
And then gives the player motivation, the reason to play the game and continue on, which if you can't skip the tutorial, you better give good motivation to continue playing the game.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think of that. If a tutorial should be skippable, which we should approach that later on. But yeah, I mean, if you're forced to do the tutorial, it should either be really good or really easy to understand.
Yeah. Or teach you something you don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're playing games, you've probably been through the various kinds already. So, what makes a good tutorial?
Oh, sheesh. So, that's the hard question. God, I'm not even through this beer yet.
Yeah.
So, what makes a good tutorial? Okay, so as you put in here, explains the mechanics of play, which I kind of like what you have in here is, what we've written down, okay, so base level knowledge of the system. So, so what type of game is this? Is this hack and slash? Is this puzzle? Is this fight 'em up, beat 'em up, epic mode, story mode, narrative mode, spectator mode?
Yeah.
But at the same time, as you put here, it leaves you to explore variations of different things. So it teaches you core mechanics basically of here's how to cast a spell. But, you could cast a spell while you're throwing, a spear.
Yeah.
Or, here's how to manipulate a system that empowers you at the same time while it doesn't give you too many negative flaws in the process. Cool. You gave me the core concepts hey, if you do this, it'll beef you up. If you do this, it'll weaken you.
Yeah.
But it might balance you out if you kind of think about it a little bit more. Hint, hint, wink, wink, good luck. We're not completely holding your hand on this.
Yeah. I like that especially. Hack and slash, for an example, is, say, I don't know what the controller mappings, but X for slash, square for heavy, heavy slash. And then the next tutorial would be okay, well, you can combo XX square. What? So there are combos, and then like a tooltip, they'll say, well, there are many combos in the game that you can try out or unlock depending on how the game's mechanics. Try out the variations. That's it. That's a good tutorial. Like, there are combos. You found the basic controls. You are going to be fighting this entire damn game, so you figure out the combinations.
I like how you mentioned that because it reminded me of Guacamelee. I don't know if you ever played that. It's a wonderful Metroidvania kind of style game where you're a Mexican luchador and you're fighting the undead. It's so much fun. It's all wrestling moves, but they do that. They teach you the basic mechanics of comboing. And anytime you unlock a new move, or smooth as I call it, super move, they teach you how to do it, but really simply.
Yeah.
Like, hey, do this 3 times. Cool. That's easy.
Yeah.
But then there's the option. You can go to a wrestling match arena, kind of like a gym, more or less, where you can train and learn these badass combos. Not mandatory.
Yeah.
Completely optional.
Training dummies are great. What is it? The Vikings game that we ran through, and like Castle Crashers, like a hub to.
Oh yeah. Oh god, what the hell was the name of that game? Viking something.
Squad?
Shit. Yeah, Viking Squad. There we go.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
The training dummies were good.
Yeah, because like, oh, okay, so I'm making combos and doing damage. And then there's like RPGs where they give you the base level. I'll go back to The Witcher a little bit, but like, okay. Slash, have a slash, here's your skills.
Magic.
You have, or your magic, and then here's your skills that increase your magic. They don't tell you about anything advanced about your skills. You learn them as you go. They have tooltips. It's on your own. If you want to do it, we're not going to bore you to death with the stuff that you don't want to apply as your skill. We'll leave it up to you.
Yeah.
Base level knowledge. I love that. So what else?
So we got gives the player an engaging experience, which I think we can both agree is something that can be done so subtly, works so efficiently.
Yeah.
Whereas, if you're pretty much just dragging through a tutorial and it's like, oh my god, we're on text bar number 500, and I still don't know why I have to save the princess. What's the point?
Free MMOs.
Wait, am I saving the princess?
Yeah.
Am I? I don't know anymore. I'm still at the bar. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Like, free MMOs fall into that bad category because they're like, oh, do this, finish this. Or like ones that lock you in an arena and you have to finish the arena, but it has nothing to do with the story. It's just like a hub or a zone that you have to complete before you get to the game. And it's like, I'm wasting my time. That's not an engaging experience.
Yeah, and so and the engaging experience part, I think, ties in kind of the next part of like setting up the story, or AKA why the fuck are we doing this? Because like if the story itself, the motivation, the reason, the quest, I'm going to use and pull from an example from our previous cast. If the quest is that good and that engaging and worth that concept, it pretty much writes itself at that point.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like good examples, and I can't quite off the top of my head, sadly. I blame our lovely friend, Mr. Beer.
I blame intelligence level. What?
Hey, I rolled at least of 12. No, 10?
Yeah, like 8 or 9 is negative, so we'll give you a 10 for 0.
Wait, are we counting the time I rolled 4 ones?
No.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because you're semi-smart. Yes, I said semi.
That's up to the judge.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Of course, sets the tone for gameplay right away with a good tutorial
which is necessary.
Oh yeah,
like Dead Space. It is dark, scary.
Everything you hate.
It's going to be anxiety and thrilling. Or you have Skyrim, adventurous, trying to be awe-inspiring.
Make you feel tiny.
Borderlands, complete humor.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing else besides humor. There is good story, but it's humorous.
Stairs!
Yeah, exactly. Soul crushing, which would be like Dark Souls. Or like...
Some of the first Devil May Cries were soul crushing at times. You put them on the highest difficulty because, dear sweet God, the thing looked at you and you died.
Yeah. I was debating on saying if Bastion was soul crushing or not, because you basically start out with no recollection and you find out everybody dies. Is everybody dead? I
would say that more of soul crushing from a story aspect, and maybe not from a tutorial base, but they're they could be, it's argued it could be one and the same.
Yeah.
Debate me in the comments. Try me.
But the thing is, like, yeah, because it starts you out dark and everybody's dead, and once you kind of finish the tutorial, but you're actually playing through the game. You don't even realize you're in a tutorial, like good one should. But then there's hope. Oh, we can rebuild the bastion.
At what cost?
Yeah, so there is hope. But it does really start you out kind of like deep soul crushing, like, why the hell am I in a dead world?
Well, yeah, you wake up on a bed in a floating freaking island, and then the world appears before you magically, which is a cool concept, and I definitely want to talk about Bastion one of these days from a storytelling aspect.
Yeah.
Or from a narrative and sound aspect.
I wish he would soothe me to sleep every night. Creepy? Maybe.
Logan, we like you, sorry.
Yeah.
You got a wonderful voice. I doubt you're listening, but if you are, buddy.
Yeah.
I met him once. I think I scared the hell out of him.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Oh, total fanboy mode. It was embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like all of them. Like I shook all their hands. I was so excited. And like
you can let go now.
The look on their face was like, "Dear sweet God, this poor man's crazy." And at the moment, I was temporarily insane.
Yeah.
Okay, so
examples of a good tutorial.
I'm gonna let you start that one.
Like I said, Witcher 3.
Oh yeah.
Great because it's background story. I don't remember the first two Witchers, although I have played the first one.
I haven't even played the first two Witchers.
Hour or two. I didn't play the second, but Witcher 3 is great because it gives you its background story about, spoiler alert, about you and basically your daughter.
What?
Basically your daughter. But she's a Witcher as well, and she's young, and you learn the basic moves. Practice hit, and you can actually skip it if you want to, and the story's still kind of there, and it leads together.
I think you deprive yourself big time when you skip it.
Yeah, you can, but actually it doesn't rob too much. It just kind of, it's like small details if you don't.
Yeah, I mean, for me, since I'd never played a Witcher game before, and I started out on 3, which, it's absolutely majestic.
Yeah.
I actually liked the tutorial, because, I figured out the combat movements and stuff like that pretty easily, but, I liked how it showed the relationship between you and her right from the get-go, and then the relationship between you and your to-be, and I'm using air quotes here, lover.
Yeah, right at the beginning,
which I thought was really good because I didn't realize what the actual tutorial is. I don't want to say it without spoiling anything, because it was really cool how they presented the tutorial.
Yeah.
Because it was cutscene with story, tutorial, which within itself was something completely different, and then cutscene, and then you actually start the game.
Yeah.
Where then that first area, I would argue, White Orchard is the tutorial.
Yeah. So after the actual tutorial, because it gives you the basic, which I don't know if you noticed, but the first thing you do is make right at the first cutscene, you make a dialogue choice.
Yeah.
And it sets you up for the rest of the game that you actually have choices. It's the first thing you see, beautiful woman. You're the character in the bathtub, whatever. You get dialogue choice.
I prefer a shower personally. I don't know why
true, but they don't have showers.
Amateurs.
Yeah, and then you go on, and then you learn that talking's more like the biggest part of the game at first.
Yeah,
is you talk multiple times before you even get into action, and then you learn the basics of combat because that game's not all about it. It's about story, politics, and a ton of stuff. You have to talk to a lot of NPCs. Sets you up really well, and then once you finish the tutorial, you go to White Orchard, which isn't the technical tutorial, but it's still the tutorial. It does teach you the basic mechanics without you knowing. You already know to hit X and smash and use your abilities, but it kind of gives you deeper story and presents the motivation and continues. It's so fluent and efficient. It's the best tutorial I think I've played.
Yeah, in modern gaming time, I would call it one of the better ones.
Yeah.
So another one we're going to throw out there would be, I put a list together of different tutorials that we thought were really good. So Fallout 3 was one, where I know you didn't play very much, did you?
No, I played Fallout 3. New Vegas is...
we don't count that. Yeah. So for those of you who didn't play, you start out being born.
Yeah.
And that's the way you pretty much pick how your character is going to look, which I thought was a cool mechanic. And then you start, it flash forwards to you as a toddler, where you read the I'm Special book, and you get to pick your stats more or less.
I love that.
I thought that was really cool. And then from there it fast forwards to where you're having like your 10th or 12th birthday or something.
You get a BB gun.
And you get a BB gun, and you learn the basics of like combat to some extent. And then like it fast forwards you as like a young adult / teenager, and then the story kind of goes from there.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of a cool way to actually introduce it, because it's like, okay, wait, I'm being born. How long is this game? Like, dear sweet God, like, is it real time? Like, cause shit, I'm gonna die before I hit the age of 20.
Yeah. Seriously. And what a good thing about that is it was a unique tutorial.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you were confined to it, but it was all story driven because there was actually motivation to love your father, and he was caring for you, and that turns out to be the main story.
Your mom's dead. So.
Yeah, she died giving you birth, and they tell you that too.
Yeah, right.
It gives you the emotional and like the grimness of
punch in the stomach.
Yeah, and then like your dad takes off, and that's your motivation for the main quest. Sure, you can go off and do everything, but you kind of want to chase after your dad, And
why'd you leave, Daddy?
Yeah. So then you set up in the wasteland, and then it's just like boom.
Oh, yeah, well, I love that with Fallout. It's like the second you leave the vault, it always has that grand, majestic, like, hey, guess what? We're going to open up the entire fucking world for you now. Like, close your eyes because this is going to burn.
Yeah.
And they do a really good job of that. But at the same time, it's like, after so many of them, you kind of get used to it. But it's like, it's always that quick moment of like, oh, like, it's like that freedom of like, cool, I'm done with the tutorial. It was so seamless, I didn't realize it was a tutorial.
Yeah.
And it was fun, but like, it's like that deep breath,
Yeah, exactly.
Like, now it's time to have fun. Or really have fun. Okay, so I'm going to throw this one out. The original Super Mario Brothers, World 1-1. A lot of people, I've read dozens of essays and reports and things like that on how it was like the basis of a good tutorial. But I'd argue it's both, because it's a great tutorial as in it teaches you the mechanics of the game, as simple as they were back then. But at the same time, it is trial by fire, so it's you could argue it's somewhat along the levels of like a Dark Souls aspect. Because like the game starts you out, most of the camera is faced right, so it encourages you to go right.
Yeah.
The first thing you encounter is a Goomba. If you touch it, you die.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, crap, that's a hard lesson to learn.
You don't know what it does.
You don't know what it does, yeah. So it's just moving towards you, and it doesn't look good.
You push the button.
Well, so it doesn't even tell you to push the button, so you have to find out what jump is, if there is a jump button.
Yeah.
So then you jump. You may jump over it, you may jump on top of it, you may jump in place, and it moves underneath you.
Yeah.
Whatevs. You learn that. Then you move it to the item blocks. Like, okay, maybe I can should I jump into these things? Am I getting a brain concussion when I do this? Because Mario should by definition, but his fist goes up, so his hand should break.
But
then you learn your first power-up.
Yeah.
Then you encounter a pipe. Okay, I have to go over this pipe somehow. Could I jump over it like I jumped over the Goomba? And then so forth and so on. It just sets up different pattern sequences for the rest of the game.
Yeah. For its limitation, it was amazing.
Oh, it was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, because like if you look at it, like especially like you were saying, if you look at how well they place the camera just at the beginning where it's leading right, that's mentally everyone initially picks up going right. You can turn left, but the camera doesn't move. As soon as you start moving right, it will start moving with you. And it's amazing, like how it hits you mentally, like how easy it just works with you, and And then like the Goomba coming, like you don't know what it is. You don't want to touch it. Same with real life.
I want to hug it. I don't know about you.
You see something on the ground, you don't. I'm not touching that.
You don't put it in your mouth?
No.
How are you supposed to know what it is?
Well, I mean, you lick it a little bit, but you don't put it in.
Oh.
But then you jump over it or step over it, right? Same with the Goomba. I'm assuming.
Step over it.
Yeah, unless it was like a 3-foot tall creature walking towards you, you'd probably want to jump over it. Yeah.
We might need to go to the hospital.
Yeah. Oh God. But you're right. I actually agree, but it is also bad because it literally doesn't tell you jack. But it's not a deep mechanic system, so it doesn't really need to. And you had 2 buttons on the controller?
Yeah,
4
aside
buttons.
from the D-pad. No. So
the original one,
it was the D-pad, start and select, A and B.
Yeah.
So theoretically 5, but potentially 8.
Yeah. But start and select are menu control options.
Clearly someone didn't know the Contra code.
Nah.
So I'm going to throw this one in here. Some people disagree with me on this one. Wolfenstein: The New Order. I kind of liked how the tutorial system, like, it started you out, you know, in a bomber, in a plane, and it had some simple tutorial, but it kind of set up the story of, like, why you were going to the island, how you got to the island, how you were shot down, things like that. I mean, it covers kind of the basic tutorial aspect of things. And a lot of people complain because it took, like, oh, it took me 20 minutes to get a gun and Wolfenstein, and I just want to kill Nazis. We all want to kill Nazis in that game.
Yeah.
But, like, at the same time, it doesn't mean that the game is nothing more than just run and gun. Like, have the ability to build story, have the ability to build an engaging experience, make the tutorial interesting.
You need motivation.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why would you play 12 hours? Or, I mean, you were like, why am I doing this? What was the backstory? You'd get a few hours and you're like, wait, why am I? What? Yeah. If you didn't have it.
And so then let's take a step back a little bit and go into Half-Life. A lot of people think, like, well, there wasn't a tutorial in Half-Life. Well, there's actually a training option that I thought was really cool because for the time, the way they set it up was awesome. It's like you get in your HEEV suit, and it's a hologram tutorial showing you, even though you're first person, what the movements you're doing is doing and how to do them. And it was cool. It was like a little obstacle course, which a lot of games borrowed from that concept. Like, I think Titanfall 1 and 2 did that as well. They had, like, obstacle courses for you to learn the ropes.
Yeah.
Splinter Cell had an obstacle course, the first one, that kind of showed you the ropes, and you could challenge yourself and beat your personal time as you got better and better at it.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool with that. Let's jump into the humor aspect of Borderlands 2.
Yes, that was the best because that one really sets the mood right off. It's like, oh yeah, deep explosion, you get your motivation, this guy's trying to kill me.
Yep.
But it's funny because it's like, you find Hands of Jack and it's just a bunch of bombs and dynamite, you know, and the Chinese like, ha ha ha, you know.
And plus Claptrap.
Yeah, and then you find Claptrap and he's just the goofiest, dumbest robot. Yeah, come on, minion.
I just want to hug him.
Yeah, right?
I don't know why.
And so, like, it gives you the motivation, like, okay, this bastard tried to kill me, and it gives you the motivation throughout. Like, this guy's a monster over the radio, and you're like, you're gonna die. And
I just love he taunts you routinely. Like,
oh, yeah. Butt stallion.
Oh, he's just eating pretzels. He's really good pretzels, I mean.
Yeah. and it's humorous. Like, the entire thing is humorous. And then, like, your one weakness.
Well, yeah, it teaches you, you know, it's just like, it's not a serious game. It's meant for you to have fun.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
And it is, because, like, the mechanics aren't hard. Like, you shoot, you kill, there's elemental effects. It teaches you about those, but not in a deep way. And you go through the entire tutorial of getting Claptrap's eye in Borderlands 2. Mm-hmm. And you don't even realize you're in a tutorial unless you've played through it before. But It's like, okay, that's how you do things. Cool, whatever. Let's go listen back to Claptrap being stupid again. Yeah. And so you don't even realize it has such great flow between tutorial and, like, background story and all that. That's another, like, I'd say perfect tutorial.
Oh yeah, damn near.
For the game, yeah.
And then we'll jump into the scary aspect real quick, and then we'll get into bad tutorials. I just want to call into, this is mainly more for, like, good menus and tutorials is Dead Space 1 and 2, because as you're learning the game, it doesn't really feel like you're playing a tutorial, but, you know, so you're Isaac Clarke, you're an engineer, blah, 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 you got this power suit more or less, and so as you pick stuff up, it's pretty cool because, like, a little holographic menu pops up just so subtly and just tells you, like, hey, you found a med kit. I'm going to hold on to this for you, buddy. If you want to use it, just press this button. Yeah. Cool. Minimal menus. Don't have to worry about hitting 20 different things. Like, there's a button right next to my, like, run fast / stomp button, whatever.
Yeah.
That I can activate a health pack. Or, hey, here's how you shoot when you pick up, like, the first gun teaches you how to shoot. And then after that, it's like, you can figure it out on your own with any other type of weapon.
Yep.
That's good. It's not teaching you each time, like, hey, this is the line gun. It shoots a line across things. Well, I wonder why they call it a line gun. Oh, cool. I figured it out.
Yeah.
I don't need something to tell me how to do it. Trial and error worked great for that. But it taught me how to use a weapon, how to aim with it, and an alternate mode that every weapon has. Groovy.
Yeah.
I can work with that.
That's
it. It was so minimalistic, but it was so... It blended in so well because it was set in the future. Hologram or holographic projections existed, and it worked perfectly.
The first one gave you a cutscene, gives you the background story, you get in it, and throws you right into the fire. And you learn as you go. It's never like a dull moment. it just, the first one just intense, like, monsters, oh shit, killing everyone, oh fuck, oh, I picked up a run, you better run, shift is to run,
Yeah.
And then you picked up the plasma cutter, you're like, you fucking shoot shit.
Yeah.
These things are gonna kill you.
And I mean, even if you pay attention, like when you get the plasma cutter, on the wall it says aim for the limbs.
Oh yeah.
Such a subtle way to tell you how to play the game, where it actually requires you, hey, maybe I should like look for shit like this, like clues and whatnot, because it's like, oh, I got this standard game headshot. You blow off a head, they get worse.
Yeah.
They get really worse.
You don't aim for the head.
No, never.
You legs first is what I learned. I like legs.
I used to blow off one limb, kinesis a claw, and then throw it back at him.
Oh, really?
But that's when you get really good.
Yeah. I didn't like using kinesis just in case it takes my...
The second game, kinesis is way better.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, you can pick up shit and just use it to block and throw things down. Okay, so bad tutorials. And this actually was harder than I want to admit when we were putting it together. Like, I could only think of a handful of things.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of little things, but core-wise...
Because, I mean, like, the first one I thought of is, I hate to say this because I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy games, but some of the Final Fantasies have a reputation of having bad tutorials. Yeah. And I'm going to use 7, 8, and 13 as examples, because those are the ones that come to my head right away. With, like, 7, the materia system wasn't too difficult to learn, but I don't feel like I was ever truly, or maybe because I was young and stupid when I played 7, challenged to learn the actual combinations you could make with materia.
Yeah.
8, the junction system, I absolutely hated when I was a kid. Couldn't figure it out for the life of me. It was a fucking nightmare. Didn't understand why I had to like draw things and then put them into my stats to make them better when I could just level up. And it was a different way of leveling up. And then I replayed it as an adult, had a buddy explain it to me, and it still was confusing.
Yeah.
But I figured out how to cheat the system because he taught me the easy way to play, which is just put 99 waters into your attack until you get Ultima, and then put 99 Ultimas into your attack, and then put like 99 Cure 3s into your HP, and then just go from there. And it's pretty much just easy mode. Like, you hit something and it pretty much explodes. It's like, oh, okay. And then you learn leveling up's not good in that game. And yeah, I don't want to go into it too far. And then 13, a lot of people give 13 a bad rap because it was super linear, but then also because in 13 you would be like, the joke was you'd be 35 hours into gameplay and the game's still teaching you a mechanic.
God, that's so annoying.
Which I wouldn't say it was that far. I'd probably say it was more like 18 hours or maybe 12, depending how fast you played.
Still, if it's teaching you that much, it's either A, there's too many mechanics, or 2, you're repeating yourself way too much, or you're teaching it way too late in the game. It's like you can't be 3/4 of the way the game and they're like, oh yeah, here's this new mechanic. It's like if you have to do that to keep a game exciting, you're obviously doing something bad from the start. Yeah. Or you're adding something that doesn't need to be there.
Because, I mean, I know, like, I think the last tutorial I got in 13 was when I first learned how to use the ability of, oh god, I don't remember what they were called. They're like the summons. I can't remember if they were called add-ons or espers or what have you, but like, because when you gain access to a summon, there's 2 modes for the summon. It's they jump in battle and you control them and they help you, or you blow all of their like moves smooth. I like the word smooth, smooth stuff, and they go into like ultimate mode where they transform into something, usually like a vehicle, and do like an AOE hit or something like that does multiple hits and they disappear.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, like, you know, so sadly some of the Final Fantasies tutorials are kind of
Yeah. I never played them, so I can't say. But
yeah, I'm waiting for the fans to chastise me and crucify me, which I'm also waiting for them. Which is why I'm gonna make you read this next one because I don't want to be crucified even further.
But you're right though when you put this as an example. But the Legend of Zelda games, not all, but some,
yeah,
are pretty bad. You mentioned Skyward Sword because
oh god,
what's her Fee was just constantly
she wouldn't shut up.
Just bugging
Just
you.
ever, she wouldn't shut up.
In Ocarina 2 was bad, but at the time, I would say at the time the camera angles were okay. But when you go back and play it, you're like, God, this tutorial's horrible because like your view's bad, Navi jumps around like crazy. You don't really know what's going on. It just I don't know.
What's so funny because like Navi targeting / Z, I think it was called Z targeting, was so revolutionary back then.
Yeah.
People talk about it all the time to this day on how the concept of locking on something and then 3D movement based around it was great, but fuck, man, those camera angles. Like, I sometimes I really hated, like, when you'd be on a ladder climbing and you couldn't look around you.
Yeah. That's through the whole game.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's some bad things about just the tutorials. Like, when you first get it, it's, like, not a great impression. But that's back then when the game first released, it wasn't that bad. But Skyward Sword, yeah.
It was, Skyward Sword was like, it's like, okay, I know how to play a 3D Zelda game. Yes, this is a 3D Zelda game with motion controls, so that does change things a little bit, but I felt like my hand was held so freaking long through a majority of the tutorial, and like, it was, yeah, some of it was fun, it was engaging, and it was definitely interesting, but it's like, dear sweet God, like...
Yeah, you gotta stop hand-holding, but a lot of Nintendo games do that.
Yeah, Nintendo's a stickler and sometimes not so great at the whole, like, you know, like, I mean, like, imagine when you're teaching your kid how to ride a bike, you know, and, like, you know, yeah, you once they get the balance, you let go and still run with them to pretend. It's like, I'm there,
yeah, but I'm
not holding your hand.
Yeah, but Nintendo's like, you're a teenager, and they're like, okay, now pedal your bike,
yeah.
And okay, and I got you, and you're like, Dad, I'm freaking 17, you know, I got this, leave me alone, you know. That's kind of like Nintendo with their tutorials. It's
yeah, I've ridden a bike for 12 years. Can we take the training wheels off?
Yeah. I wish I had them now, because then I would just kind of like, we
won't talk about your inner ear problems.
Yeah.
So I know neither of us have never played this game, but I found this when I was doing some research. I hope you guys who listen can shed some light on this. Driver? Apparently the tutorial was...
The first one,
yeah. The first Driver was apparently like the most god-awful, gut-wrenching, dear sweet God, kill me now tutorial. I have my own version we're going to talk about next, but if you guys know about this, fill us in, because I didn't watch the video, I didn't have time, because I'm lazy.
Yeah.
But I heard it was god-awful horrible.
I haven't seen anything on it.
Yeah.
I do have one, the Jurassic Park for the SNES. Horrible.
I don't remember that.
It doesn't really give you any clue, and there's no save, so like...
Ugh.
So, like, you're going along and you just get... They don't tell you that, like, random dinosaurs come out of nowhere, and there's, like, no really good visual hints. Like, at one point there is, but if you go the wrong way, you're mauled by raptors, you're killed by... And, you know, there's no save points. You have a few lives, and it's just... You're dead. So, like, the whole game, there's new things that pop up. Like, if you go into a dark room...
Was that the one that kind of looked like the Super Star Wars games? Like Super Star Wars: A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, where like it was like side-scrolling, platformy, combat-driven. No,
that was for the PlayStation. This is the SNES one where it's top-down. You're the guy that walks around, and then it goes into like a first-person view.
Yeah, I gotta look that up.
Yeah, horrible, horrible start. Like it, as a kid, like I multiple attempts to finish, but there's no save. So like. You're really demotivated to play it because unless you knew what was going to happen, it's trial by fire. But to the point where the game's long and you have to collect all these eggs and stuff, and
fuck it.
Yeah, you're just like fuck it in the end.
And so that kind of plays into my experience of I'm going to call upon Superman 64, which anyone who's played it, I don't have to explain. And I'm just gonna say enough said.
I've never.
But Superman 64, like the first fucking level was so bad, so hard, and so gut wrenching horrible. Like there was no combat. You flew. You were flying across. What's it called? Metropolitus or something like that. I don't fucking know. I'm not a Superman fan.
Yeah.
You fly across. Damn it. You fly across the city to actually get where you're going, and it teaches you how to fly. But like it. So poorly explains the concept. I never beat the first level.
Really?
And I never wanted to beat the first level because it was so frustrating because it was a timed event right out of the gate, first level, fly through the rings. If you don't fly through the one ring, you fail automatically. It's like, whoa, hold on, time out here.
Yeah.
Like, this is a really crappy comic book game on the N64. Like, you can't be that heartless out the gate.
Yeah.
Or maybe they were the precursors to Dark Souls. I don't know.
Yeah. N64 controller wasn't that great in my opinion anyway, so it's like, you know, that's bad. Especially timed events because they're horrible anyways.
Oh, yeah. And then, so from here, we kind of ran out of ideas.
Yeah.
Which I think we can just kind of jump into something here that's going to tie into something else.
Comment, though. Like, they're bad you forget. Like, which is so true because, like, I never went back, and I don't remember them because, like, I don't care. If I see them again, I'm like, yeah, probably.
Yeah, it's like my brain blocked it out intentionally to keep me sane or something.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's explore this. So, what makes a bad tutorial?
Too long, like you were saying. Like, there's multiple too longs.
Yeah.
One is, like you're saying, Final Fantasy is, like, you're 10, 12 hours in the game where you basically know everything, and it's still holding your hand. Like, you still get pop-ups and tooltips that, like, either tooltips aren't bad, but if they, like, stop your gameplay or your flow, like, a little hover over that gives you text isn't bad. But if it's like a pop-up, you have to hit like X or A or B or anything to get rid of the alert. That's annoying. You're like, I know this shit, or the other too long would be like, it kind of ties in with your 9,000 counterattacks, but is like you're in a hack and slash. You learn the basic, you learn the combo, and you have to learn this combo, and then you have to learn that combo, and you have to learn this, and then you have to learn the blocking, and then you have to do this. And you're like, okay, well, you're hand holding, and you're making it way.
Well, it's like it's forced hand holding. It's like it's not hand holding, more or less. It's like, hey, you need to perform 10 successful counterattacks without taking damage. Wait, what?
Yeah, it's basically playing the game for you. It's telling you how to play the game,
but you have to play it.
Yeah. You don't get to choose. You have to do this, and it's like, okay, well, they're telling me how to play the game, which is, I mean, okay in a sense, but like I want to play it this way. If I want to just like quick slash,
Well, and that's the thing too, is it's like it's forcing you, like, okay, here's a game where you can play with, let's break it down to 5 different styles that you could play, whether that's stealth, quick hits, heavy hits, magic, what have you.
Yeah.
But hey, you have to play it as a tank. What? No. Like, just show me how, and I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to play it as a tank. Like, you gave me the option to learn as a tank, but I don't want to play as a tank.
It's like if The Witcher forced you to kill, like, 10 enemies with spells, 10 enemies with heavy hits, 10 enemies with quick attacks. That would be atrocious, because I'm a fast attack person. I dodge bow real quick, and it's like if I had to do heavy attacks, I'm like, oh, this is so slow, and trudge through it. Or like spells, it's like, okay, they only do a certain amount of damage. Now I have to go.
Yeah, and there are certain things that are resistant to it, and other things are slightly weak to it, and if you don't put points into it, it doesn't do you shit.
But that's the thing I want to learn on my own.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's resistant to that. Oh shit, dodge, kind of thing. Like, okay, well, I'll try next spell when it recharges. Good, let me learn that.
Wait, the rock monster's not immune to fire? Or is immune to fire?
Yeah, and it's like, it shouldn't have to tell you that. It's like, let you learn and explore on your own. That's the part of the fun of a game, is exploring its mechanics.
And speaking of, like, especially a bad tutorial that doesn't explain the mechanics very well at all, where it's like, hey, like, okay, so you're in this world, good luck. Wait, that's it? Like, I hate to say this because I love Don't Starve, but Don't Starve is a good example of that.
Yeah.
You literally are told, it's getting dark, you should probably get something to eat.
Oh, yeah.
And that's it. Like, it's the ultimate, like, I would argue it as a bad and a good tutorial, because it's absolutely no hand-holding and doesn't tell you shit, and it's trial by fire, but that's what makes it good for that aspect, so it's not...
It's the tone of the game.
Yeah.
Is you're going to die, and
yeah.
you should just get used to dying, and don't take heart in it. It sucks, but... You're going to die.
But it doesn't explain the mechanics at all. It's like, It doesn't tell you that, like, gathering these items and then hitting a certain button can bring up a menu where it's like, oh, I can make a spear, or I can make an axe or a hammer. Like, it doesn't tell you these things.
Yeah.
Which, whatever, that's fine. It's trial and error, and that's the way the game's set up. But it's like, imagine doing that, like, in a big RPG. It's like, a big action RPG where it's hack and slashy. It's like, okay, how do I defend? Like, what buttons defend? Oh, great, I'll use my only potion at full health. Shit.
What if you're level 80 in, like, WoW or something like that, and you had the full skill bar set, and you're like, do it on your own? You'd be like, oh, fuck, and there's like 100 skills.
Oh, my God, that must be so intimidating to players that do that. Like, because I've never experienced that.
Oh, yeah, like...
I've always been level 1 and worked my way up.
Oh, yeah, me too. Like, if you actually pay to get to, like, the max level at 95 or whatever it is now, 100, that would be insane, because you got all the skills, and you're like, what do I invest points in?
Yeah,
if you're an experienced player, which by now, joining WoW would be kind of weird. But
Well, there'd be so much metagame thinking involved before you even started the game on what build do I need to go for.
Yeah.
And even then, I think you didn't have the same experience as learning how each skill played out and like, oh god, this is shit. Or hey, this could be useful if I tied in with this, this, and this.
Yeah.
And then dump points into that.
Yeah. That would be a horrible way to go. So what else?
Too vague in the story?
Too vague in the story. There's a lot like that just say, oh, this is your main goal. You go, like, I guess Mario, you rescue the princess.
She in that castle, homie.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, okay. And then some tutorials lock you in an arena and then make you do all this, which doesn't pertain any to the story at all. And it's like, it gives you slight motivation. You're like, okay, so why
do I get out of this thing?
Why do I kill these monsters or attacking these guards or whatever? And it's like, well, it's because this is something you just have to do to go rescue that princess. And you're like, oh, well, there's no fucking motivation. There's no story. And then it happens after. And it's like, that's not what a tutorial. It's supposed to integrate the two and combine them. Mm-hmm. But no, they lock you in a damn arena that you can't skip. Oh, so annoying.
So with that, let's propose a question to ourselves and to others. Do you feel tutorials get a free pass if they suck?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Should we answer that ourselves? We got time.
Sure. We'll give quick answers.
I guess we have our thoughts next, anyway.
Yeah. So we can tie it all in. Okay. So then let's tie it in with all the questions. So the next question would be, do you feel the gaming industry in general should be held to higher standards in tutorials?
Yes.
Yeah. That is the classic Rick and Morty answer. So then, okay, so let's go into this. So tell me your thoughts based on those two questions on if tutorials get a free pass if they suck, should the industry be held to higher standards, and then your more or less definition of like a good tutorial.
It depends on how the tutorial sucks.
Okay.
Honestly, it could fail in one or two spots and still be okay. Like, it may handhold, but still have like great story or great motivation to it, or it may be too long, but it's tolerable if there's a lot of mechanics. And like handholding, it's like, okay, you get it. You're trying to introduce new players into a world that's already been there. It's like, okay, but if it has multiple bad points, no, like, it's such a turnoff. Like, I will play after the tutorial to make sure that the rest of the game doesn't suck. Mm-hmm. And a tutorial definitely shouldn't be an afterthought.
Yeah.
But it's usually like last minute, let's get a tutorial that teaches you how to play. But no, they shouldn't get a free pass, but you should give them a try. That's kind of it's a double-sided. It depends on what you mean by free pass.
Yeah, that's why I wrote it that way, to be slightly vague.
Yeah, because it's like, you should give the game a try, because the tutorial is usually different than the game unless it's a good tutorial where they all flow together. But if it sucks, obviously they don't flow together, so you should give the game a try, because it's usually night and day difference between a bad tutorial and the game, except Superman 64.
There are other examples. That's just the favorite one of mine.
But I don't believe the company should get a free pass for making a bad tutorial, which kind of ties in with the higher standard. They should be. Hands down. Like, I believe demos should be out again, instead of having to worry about refunds and,
I miss demos.
And pirating and things like that. If they did demos, it'd be hands down, less pirating around. And two, it's like... That's a
good idea for another podcast, is the concept of releasing demos again.
Cool.
Good thinking.
Yeah. But, like, they should be, because, like, a tutorial sets you up for the game. If you don't, it's like, cool, your first level might be, like, awe-inspiring, but you have to teach the players first, unless you integrate the flow to make the first level the tutorial. But if you're making a tutorial before the first level, you really have to make it good. You have to make it just as fine quality as you would the rest of the game. They have to, like, companies shouldn't be skimping on that, and I think they should be called out for bad tutorials, because even if you're new or a veteran, you should feel the same way. like you should feel motivation. You should feel, okay, I understand the combat mechanics and things like that. And it's like you should attune to the different groups. Like new players, you can have a hand-holding mode, or you can skip the extra basics if it's like a shooter or something. Like, you know how to aim down sights and pull the trigger. You've played 1,000 FPSs, like, okay, well, I'll skip this part.
But not one with a goat launcher.
Well, yeah. But then it's like, it has, like The Witcher gives you multiple points to skip. There's, like, I think 3 points where you could skip the basic, climbing, running, combat skills.
Oh, yeah.
And then you get, like, the advanced skills, spells, things like that, which you can choose to skip or not, too. Which is great, because it chooses, like, okay, well, I know the basic running, jumping, dialogue. Oh, but I don't know how this game's going to play out with, the skills, spells, because Witcher's is unique. So it gives that choice. But I think they should be held to a higher standard and should adjust for the different types of players.
Yeah, and so I guess throwing it in my aspect, like, do tutorials get a free pass if they suck? So if it's a god-awful tutorial, does it get a freebie? I'm going to flat out say no, regardless. Like, even if it has one bad point, I'm going to be that guy. Like, make a tutorial good.
Yeah.
Make it fun. Make it engaging. Make it somewhat challenging. Like, make it set the tone, because I would see a tutorial as the foundation of your game. If you produce a bad tutorial, in my head I'm thinking, God, this must suck.
Yeah.
To some extent. Or I'm that much of a fanboy, I'm willing to suffer through a crappy tutorial, hate it, and then try to focus on the good that comes from that. But I think it's I don't think they should get a free pass. I think you should be held accountable for that kind of crap.
Do you think that they if they're gonna make a bad tutorial, they should skip it entirely and just kind of toss you in the game?
No, not necessarily. Which I'll kind of get into that with my... Okay, so let's tie that in with the next question on should be held to a higher standard? Fuck yes. Fuck yes. Because I haven't cussed in a while, I think. And I have to meet my quota. But with that, in my opinion, with a good tutorial, I want to see... for me, I'd like to see something with a little bit of a restriction wall. Like, yes, there is the invisible tether to some extent, or there is the wall you can't go past. I want somewhat of like a confined area, whether it be a training course or, like a, what have you, like, kind of your starter zone. I think because that's what I grew up with. I want to see that. I want to see a little bit of linearity in it.
Yeah.
Putting me in a direction I need to go and motivating me in a good direction I want to go. And then just the tiniest level of hand-holding, whether it's like a pop-up message or like, if it's a complicated system, like, hey, we're going to pause the game for a second, homie, because this shit's important, but we want you to take the time to read it but not draw away. So it's maybe like 2 pages worth of, pop-up text that freezes the game, as opposed to going into the detailed system of how this will affect this, and this, and your brother.
Yeah.
Wait, what? He's not even playing. And then from there, I want kind of that little, kind of that Fallout 3 experience or that open world experience, or... if it was mission-based, kind of that just like that moment of grand awe and relief.
Yeah.
It's like, and even if I don't experience the relief, because it's that subtle, that's perfect. Because the tutorial was balanced that well.
Yeah.
It's like, I know I'm in a tutorial. I know this is the beginning. I know this is teaching me the core mechanics, even though I could probably figure it out on my own if I tried. But that moment of just, holy crap, this is awesome. That moment of,
this is what I prepared for.
Yeah, it's like, this is what I was trained to do, prepared for, meant to do, blah, 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 experience.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Like, moments like that are great. And I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, because it clicked real quick, like the tutorial in Firewatch. As I know we talked about that. And that one was pretty good because it was very subtle. And, like, the character narrates what you're going to do, which helps a lot. Because it's like, oh, I got to go to the Firewatch tower, here's a map. And it's just a little quick thing that says, like, press M to pull up your map.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it ties into the story later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely wonderful. I forgot about that one.
Because you use that all the damn time. And, like, I like how the tutorial itself sets up the story as you progressively... Because, like, yeah, you can kind of free roam a little bit in Firewatch in the beginning, but your motivation is just to go to the tower right away. And then, because as you go to the tower more, it explains more of the backstory.
Yeah.
And, like, it was so subtle and good, it just... I completely forgot about Firewatch. I'm ashamed I didn't think of it till now. Thank you, beer.
Yeah.
But something like that, something that's confining a little bit, teaches me what I need to know basics, and then just lets me just go.
It's flow.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, you're learning how to ride a bike, like you were saying. Okay, your parents holding you, and then they let go.
Without
But
even
you're
realizing
doing it yourself, but you're just getting that little bit of balance to make it, and then you go. You're on
And you
your
don't even
own.
realize it.
Yeah, you don't even realize it. Yeah, no, I think that all games should do that. I don't think the game and the tutorial should be separate.
No, they need to be integrated.
Yeah, for sure. So that's our thoughts on a good tutorial and those questions. So give us yours. Do you feel tutorials get a free pass if they suck? Should the industry be held to a higher standard in tutorials?
Simple questions this time. We didn't make it too difficult.
Yeah.
Bonus points if you go into a long rant.
Yeah.
And we actually contribute.
Yeah. So to close up, thank you for listening to all of our fans. Yeah, we could say fans now.
I know, it's amazing.
Plural. It's amazing. So thank you. This is the Flickering Torch Podcast. Hopefully we'll cover something good. We do need to talk about demos. So
Yeah, I like that concept. I think that's the idea. Cool.
And we also have Resident Evil coming up before too long, so it's the next one or the one after.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, so eventually we should finish it. But thank you for joining us. This is Smite This.
And Mr. Descott.
And we'll see you on the next one.
Bye-bye.